So much to tell you, so much has happened, and we could probably talk just 2 hours on eggs and chickens and gas prices, and costing $1,100 to fill up a truck with diesel. What does that mean when you're shipping your lettuce from Mexico through, what I mean, this kind of prices, what can we do? So gardens become very important. I learned this morning that there's a 40% reduction in the amount of ammunition coming into the United States because Russia produces 40% of our ammunition. Can you imagine? That's horrible. I talked to a friend from Switzerland. We've been friends since high school. And I was planning maybe I might go over and visit because the price is still low for airfare. I don't know how. But anyway, he was just saying that they had shown on Russian TV how they're going to be bombing the different areas, the European, and they're very nervous. He goes, I had a friend just buy a condo in Canada. They're getting nervous over there. He goes, this is feeling very real and really kind of out of control, kind of spinny, weird. So anyway, we've got so many things going on in the world that it's just, but the purpose of this group really has been, I feel like, twofold. One is to understand the Constitution so that it can be restored if it breaks apart. And then the second part is to increase our spirituality. And I'll show you that I think the women have a large part, and I think that's what President Nelson's been trying to show us. And I've been on this little rampage, and you guys have been, as I'm sharing these things, and I have another rampage. I just can't wait to tell you. I went down to Chaco Canyon. I had an experience at Nicole's that she just did a sound bath, the guys with the crystals and all these things, and she said, do you want to come to my birthday? And I'm like, yeah, I want to come, but I might have conflict. So the conflict went away, and I got in the car, and I ran up there, and he was just getting started. I laid down, I had a little fleece, I laid down on it. He's like, okay, we're going to begin. And he started doing this sound, and I thought, oh, just relax, listen to this, and imagine that I'm in by a river or a lake or an ocean. And all of a sudden, I was in the air, flying over red rocks and desert, and I'm like, no, I want a beach. But it didn't come. And pretty soon I found myself over these ruins, and there was a ceremony going on. And I'll tell you more about that next time I present. I really want to show you. But I had heard of Chaco Canyon, kind of want to go down there. It's in New Mexico.
Where's that? Oh, New Mexico.
New Mexico, the northwest corner. So it's kind of like a Four Corners area. There's a lot of stuff in there.
That was where Geronimo went and escaped.
Into Four Corners or into
Chaco Canyon. That's known for Geronimo.
I want to tell you, there's something going on in Chaco. So I went down Friday, spent the night to Saturday, explored Saturday, and came back Sunday. And my mind is blown. It is so amazing. I would say the closest thing to it would be Machu Picchu. So that you would in Peru. That is so aligned. There are I think 14 great houses, but I would call them temples. It's all on equinox, solstice. It's phenomenal. And it pulls in, it's like a pilgrimage. I would say maybe Mecca, where the pilgrims would go and they would have their ceremonies. And I think what I saw was a ceremony. So I'm hoping a few of us will get to go down there and explore, because mind-blowing. But that aside, so we'll do that as soon as we can get it in. So wherever you can wedge me, and I'll get that done. So I can tell you.
A presentation?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's just too amazing. Yeah, all sorts of amazing things happen. Okay, so this, all right. And also, I have the voting stuff. Maybe we'll say that, well, you need to kind of, and maybe afterwards we'll talk about it, because I was a delegate, state delegate, and kind of what happened and who's who, so we can do that. And then, but let's just start.
You have to vote?
Huh?
You have to vote because they tried to take that away?
Yeah, they did. I know, it was a big thing.
So that is a miracle in itself that she was able to go do that, because they tried to steal it from her.
Yeah, I was the one that had the highest votes for our group, and when I got there, they were like, your name's not on the list. And when Julie and I had gone, we noticed that there were a lot of people that were kind of like, oh, there's something about critical race theory, oh, this and that. And I'm like, I don't think they're Republicans. And that's what we realized, is they aren't. And you saw the Democratic, they didn't even elect a Democrat, because, a Democrat can't get elected in Utah. So they just changed the letter. and then they infiltrate. And so when I went to sign up, my name wasn't on the list. even
And
though
also, I was a delegate also.
Yeah.
And they didn't,
they knocked her off.
Yeah.
So out of our
Did
group,
you do it?
and then she didn't get to go. And so then I called him and he goes, well, this is what I submitted.
fraud.
And it showed my name there. And I'm like, but I'm not there. But one of the other guys that anyway,
He's the lowest.
he was like an alternate. He was put on. But he was from that group that was heavily
Oh,
Democrat. Right? And so I'm like, something's wrong. So I had the picture that he said, oh, this is what I submitted. So I took it to the gal and she goes, well, are all your delegates coming? I go, well, this Glenn guy, I guess he couldn't come yesterday. It was too late to do. She goes, well, I'll just slot you in and we'll just give you that. And there you go. So I got to go and participate and get that vote back. But she kind of like shook her head like, we're seeing some strange things.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened to Kim Del Grosso. She ended up having to spend $12,000 to become a state delegate, and they were trying to say she could become, they didn't have the paper for her to sign up for the school board, like that, and they just said, it's not here, and then they said she couldn't run. That's what sneaky thing happened in Alpine School District with the one she's running against. And so that was part of the whole lawsuit, and she finally won the lawsuit. So,
And it's like this Getty mentality, right? It's sneaky. And it's almost like people that have been brainwashed. I mean, some of our own children, people who think, oh no, they know this is true. And you're like, what are you saying? Wow, it's been a shocking thing, right, to see some of these things. So but
Their golden rule is he who has the gold rules.
there you go.
so that's why I think if we memorize these 28 principles,
Yes.
then when they talk, we can go, they're not principally centered on the Constitution.
Yeah,
That's
so
why
this,
we need
and we
some
will go
time.
over that. So I'm going to go kind of an overview. The Majesty of God's Law, this book, it has a lot of things in it, right? And it has the 28 principles, has a history. It's kind of like everything all together in one. But what we want to learn is if things start falling apart, how do we put it back together? So let me just get started on this. So the Majesty of God's Law is coming. We just know when or through what? Through which we'll go. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Okay, we'll go down there. It wasn't letting me forward. Okay, so the founders prepared the way. The 5,000-year leap, so we have a couple different versions of it, right? Give us those 28 principles that Tammy's talking about. And these are great to review and really understand with family members, or so they can remember, like, let's just pick one of them. The first one, the only reliable basis for sound government and just human relations is natural law. Natural law is God's law. So it's what you find in nature. So, where you can defend yourself, right? If somebody comes to kill you, you can defend yourself, and that life is precious. All right, and let's see the next one. So prophets have talked about a time when there would be destruction, plague, famine, evil will overcome the world before he returns. And this morning, Julie, she's like, Robin, I was reading in Majesty of God's Law, and it talks about the covenant, and that Moses made a covenant with the people, and he split the animal skins, and he had half on one side and half on the other side. One read the blessings and the other read the cursings. And so, there's the laws. It's like the 10 Commandments kind of laws. But here are the blessings. Here are the blessings.
What page?
And this is page 40 in my book. So if you don't have it, it's near the front. It's in the chapter 3. It's in chapter 3, the marvelous manner in which ancient laws reveal the ancient laws of Israel. But I'm just going to read them real quick. They would become the greatest nation on earth if they would keep God's law. They would be blessed in abundance of food and clothing and comfortable homes. They would be blessed with good health and strong children. They would be blessed with great military strength, so no nation would dare attack them. And in case of war, they would be blessed with victory. They would be blessed with abundant rain and flourishing crops. They would be blessed with so much wealth that other nations would come to borrow. But Israel would never have to borrow from others. You see, as a nation of America, wow. And here are the cursings. They would become a wandering or a scattered, homeless, poverty-stricken people. They would be cursed despite their despised and abused wherever they went. They would suffer terrible disease, plagues, pestilence, famine, thirst, and in time of siege, they would eat their own dead. Ugh.
Well, that happened with the Flavonoids.
Ooh.
And this is all, yeah, describing at the
The
end.
cursings, yeah.
Patterns.
They would be weak and vulnerable and continually conquered by their enemies. Their land would be confiscated. Their crops would be devoured. Their wives ravished. Their daughters carried away into slavery. And that among the nations of the world, they would never be the head, but always the tail. And in the end, there would be a pitiful few of them left compared to the vast multitude that they had in their might. So here we see like the covenant blessings of Abraham, but that blessing goes all the way back to Adam and Eve, right? It's the blessing that they would have children, posterity, and property, and what were the other ones? Land. Do you guys remember that?
Posterity,
Land,
protection,
and priesthood.
prosperity.
Yeah, and priesthood. So they would have these blessings, and if not, and I was looking, and the problem eventually that takes Chaco down was famine. That they had they had drought for 20 years. And I had just gone down and seen the display, and I could do another one on the interesting parallels between our temple teachings and the teachings of Angkor Wat, which is the largest temple complex in the world, and it's in Cambodia. It's incredible. But that's what took them down too, was drought. And then I just saw in the news last night that Lake Powell they're going to have to release water from, I think it's the Green River, what's it called, the higher one?
Colorado.
No, they're on the Colorado.
The Green River?
Yeah, it might be the Green River. There's the beautiful canyon. Glen Canyon, is it Glen?
Glen Canyon.
The big Green River. Anyway, they've never done it before, but they're going to release a huge amount of volume of water. No way can it protect it, but if it goes down 16 more feet, and it's already gone down hundreds of feet, if it goes down 16 more feet, the power plant that provides power for 5 states, including Utah, will not be operative. Utah, Arizona, like
Nevada.
I don't know. But look on the news, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's frightening. So you can see it's almost as if the earth, when there's so much evil, just literally withholds blessings. So that's...
So when we see it rain like this, we're
Yay! We still love it. And then, when we get to the majesty of God's law, and Skousen, he said, I don't know what it will be. I don't know it quite. The prophets have told us a few things. Did I not bring that book? But you can see it. It's the cleansing of America. And that's...
Oh, it's on the bottom there.
Okay. It's there. And so what he did is he just took what the prophets had said. And he's like, I'm just going to list, because we have all of these prophets that say, when things get bad, this is what happens. It doesn't have to be end, but it could be, right, those prophecies have been around a couple thousand years, but there's been other civilizations that started good that end bad. It's like the pattern. These are the patterns of things when things go bad. So that's an interesting one to read and just go like, okay, check. We're kind of seeing some of these things in our own time period, right? But he's like, that is a way of humbling the people so they'll turn back. If they will humble themselves and turn back to the Lord, then you have hope and you can do it. The interesting part is when we went down, because I'm talking about Chaco Canyon a little bit, but when we went down, we stopped first at Mesa Verde. And we drove and drove.
Area.
How many of you have ever been to Mesa Verde?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see the cliff dwellings? All the
Absolutely.
Yes, it's fantastic.
So it's fantastic, but you're thinking, who would build the effort, right, to climb down the face of the cliff, go in there, chop up stones, put them all together, and live like that?
To get away in protection.
That's right.
That's right.
So they had to go, and what I realized at Chaco Canyon is that we were looking at a group of star priests and priestesses. That they knew the stars, like Abraham was a star priest. And these people over at Mesa Verde, up above, they have something called the Sun Temple. Well, the Sun Temple is like a 10th or a 20th, a tiny fraction of the giant temples down in Chaco Canyon. But they had taken it down to its smallest, most important parts so that they could still do their ceremonies and worship. And it's all on the equinox and solstice and the mapping of the stars, but just tiny. So you realize a remnant, probably from Chaco, left and went into the crags of the hills and built that's so incredible, right? Hanging on cliffs. Places that you could only get through ropes or ladders that they just can't get you But you're also up at the end of that mesa at those little fingers tucked in, like who can even find you? So it's absolutely fabulous.
I mean, it's just like all of a sudden, boom, there they are.
Yeah.
And if you're another tribe, you wouldn't even, they couldn't even find them. That was the only protection they had.
So that's what I'm thinking is we're looking at something anciently, right? That there was a remnant that left, that took their knowledge with them so that they could thrive again. And that's what we're looking at. So it talks about a remnant will remain. So the founders knew a time would come for the restoration and the return to God's law for America to fill its prophetic purpose as a light to the world. Now, sometimes you want to envision Zion cities as this beautiful, magnificent, but it might be that they are small, that's not total majesty. But over here on the right, other cultures, they tried to do it in Spain, they tried to do it in France, they tried to do it in England. There were people that had some of that knowledge, and they tried to kind of restore it, and they built their architecture. So we are, Tammy just went to the Library of Congress, and on the ceiling it shows Egypt, and then it shows 12 civilizations, like Egypt, Greece, Rome, the Middle Ages, Italy, it goes around.
Spain.
And America is the 12th one, is the last. And so this knowledge has gone to the world. And every nation that has followed God's laws has an abundance. They have a golden era. And then they start to get just lazy. It's just human nature, and that golden era collapses, and it moves on. So this is just kind of an overview. So from the time of Adam and Eve left the Garden of Zion, man has tried. Enoch succeeded, and he taught others. So anyway, the concept is that Zion was taken up kind of like an asteroid or something. But on earth, people have tried to say, okay, if we follow these laws, we can have a more blessed and healthy society. Zion must be built spiritually before physically, right? First we have to know it. And then the individuals must learn. But it's the mysteries in the temples and our understanding of covenants that really, it's like you can understand the 10 Commandments, but that's kind of the lower law. That's the basics of getting a civilized society. But how do we become clean every whit of the blood and sins, the evil traditions, the incorrect teachings of man mingled with Scripture? This is the fallen world we're in, and Satan has blinded our minds to higher and holier teachings. We're in the soup, and we just accept it a lot of times because it's just part and parcel of this world. But President Nelson has been leading us, but not overtly, right? People get upset, and why isn't he doing this? Why doesn't he do that? Because if you don't have eyes to see, you're not ready to see. So he talks to women to reach up, and he talks to men to honor their wives. And there's a recent video that he did in General Conference, and I think most of us just went over it. But I would say go and look at it and then do the words. It's 3 minutes, so I'm going to play it for you. But there's something, do you see that? He talks to the women. He's changed the ordinances in the temple for the women. And then he asks the men, we used to, for a woman, we would stand up as she entered the room. We would open the door to let her sit down. Has anybody seen that in the last 20 years? Right? It doesn't happen.
Or more.
Or more.
Yeah.
Because there was an honoring of womanhood, and that she was precious. And I think that's something he's going to tell us. So I'm going to play this little clip. It's just 3 minutes, but it's so powerful. So listen, if you have a marker, write down the phrase that comes to your ear. And we'll talk about it in just a second.
In 1979, President Spencer W. Kimball was in the hospital and asked his wife Camilla to read his talk to a general women's meeting.
Much of the major growth that is coming to the church in the last days will come because many of the good women of the world, in whom there is often such an inner sense of spirituality, will be drawn to the church in large numbers. This will happen to the degree that the women of the church reflect righteousness and articulateness in their lives, and to the degree that the women of the church are seen as distinct and different in happy ways from the women of the world.
My dear sisters, you who are our vital associates during this winding up scene, the day that President Kimball foresaw is today. You are the women he foresaw. Your virtue, light, love, knowledge, courage, character, faith, and righteous lives will draw good women of the world along with their families to the church in unprecedented numbers. We need your strength, your conversion, your conviction, your ability to lead, your wisdom, and your voices. The kingdom of God is not and cannot be complete without women who make sacred covenants and then keep them. Women who can speak with the power and authority of God. Whatever your calling, whatever your circumstances, we need your impressions, your insights, and your inspiration. We need you to speak up and speak out in ward and state councils. We need each married sister to speak as a contributing and full partner as you unite with your husband in governing your family. Married or single, you sisters possess distinctive capabilities and special intuition you have received as gifts from God. We, brethren, cannot duplicate your unique influence. We know that the culminating act of all creation was the creation of woman. We need your strength. I thank you, my dear sisters, and bless you to rise to your full stature, to fulfill the measure of your creation as we walk arm in arm in this sacred work. Together, we will help prepare the world for the second coming of the Lord.
This was just given the last
But
one.
just that, yeah, but he used full portions.
Oh, but from that talk, yeah, there was a talk that he gave earlier in
But this was
2015.
from conference.
Yeah, but this was from this last conference, 2022. And President Kimball's address, prophesying that this would happen, was in 1979, October.
And he's saying it
To the women, isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
They're telling the women, this is not going on general conference. They're talking about, that we are daughters of heavenly parents, to the women. They changed the young women's theme. They did not change the men's theme. They are not putting it out into the world for the men to hear.
Do the men even have a theme?
They had a theme, I think, but I don't know. I mean, there's a Heavenly Father. I know it had like our Heavenly Father, or something like it. But this is just interesting because it's the women that need to wake up. So everybody can study the Constitution, and we can know this. But there's a part, remember we said we are equal partners in the governing of our family. Well, doesn't that go up, that governance pattern, to our heavenly parents, to the governance there? And doesn't it actually go up to our governance in our government, and this is the interesting part that we saw in the Mendenhall papers, that there was a female and a male. So let me go forward so I don't. Oh goodness, that's not.
I was gonna say, and I love the fact that he's the prophet was, how many daughters did he have?
9 daughters.
9 daughters. So,
And his wife had a vision that they would have a son, and he was 10.
But 9, isn't 9?
No,
what's the-
9 daughters.
is on our garments, and the 9 being blessed is our breasts, and that's compass and the square. And at the end in Karnak, after you go through the veil and everything, there's the woman nursing.
So it's almost like this recreation.
This recreation, this heavenly mother, heavenly father number.
Isn't that beautiful? So here, the winding up scenes for the second coming of the Lord, he tells us that women have a special place to bring this about. That women have an inner sense, a spirituality that is unique to them. Right?
I love what he said,
Spiritual nursing.
brethren cannot duplicate our strength.
They can't.
They don't have it, it's not in them.
It's so much, like Heidi's brought that her bookmark, but it's the one from your Congress where the man, it's like Adam and Eve, and he's looking down. How do I till this land? How am I going to make it? And she's looking up to God. How will you bless it? Right? If you don't have that understanding above and below, and she's they don't have, it's just not in them. And how often in church you hear them say, well, I asked my wife about that, or,
I have copies if anybody wants.
look at, she has more of it.
Well, I
Just
printed
such a
in case we
beautiful
ever
word.
talk
Maybe,
about it.
can you hand me one, and I'm going to show it to the girls on the screen, if anybody's watching. If you don't, sorry. Okay, so when I reference this, I hope you guys can see that. But this is in the Library of Congress, and you can see there's an altar.
Tilted a little, please, Robin. It's got a glare on it.
Okay,
Pull it back a little bit too, there you go.
there. Okay, but you can see that would be Eve, and she's wearing that white, and she's holding her hands open for receiving, and he's, you know, looking down at the earth, and it's the square being the altar, and then the circle being it's almost the male and female coming together, and then on top of that you see the fire. So that is, it's the power
Holy Ghost.
of the male and female coming together.
Because of souls, symbols, and sacraments, you have to have the Holy Ghost with you.
Yeah, so anyway, that's what the picture is. Okay, so back to that talk, so the women have this unique spirituality that is unique to them. The good woman of the world will draw to the higher, holier temple teachings. So once we understand, then we can share that. Don't you wonder, it's like, gosh, they're building temples. President Nelson has announced 100 new temples. And it says that during the time of Zion, that temples will dot the earth. Well, they're starting to dot the earth, but people aren't awakened yet. And I think once they understand, because we're still in kind of a patriarchal mentality that needs to be corrected, once that's corrected, I think the women of the world will say, what? Nobody's been teaching that for thousands of years. You know, where was that lost? Well, that teaching will raise up the vibration of this world and will raise up, and let me show you what I'm talking about that. Because of the virtue, the light, the love, the courage, the impressions, the insights, and the inspiration of women. He wants women who can speak with the power and authority of God. Who speaks with the power and authority of God? Come on, say it.
It was about the priesthood, the prophet.
The prophet. And what is he talking about? A prophetess?
I thought you were talking about a woman.
I am talking about a woman.
Yes,
But if a woman, if you need women who can speak with the power and the authority of God, and we know God, Elohim, is a man and a woman, and in Genesis 1, that's two, a male and a female. That's God's governance. Then the power, the woman was right there with him, speaking. And we'll see it, you can see it, we can go through their scriptures and see that a little bit more. But the women have a special intuition, a unique gift from God.
This is what's happening in India. The women are joining in droves.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, good.
How fantastic is that? So this is the beginning. So the culminating act of all creation was the woman. So can't we see that the culminating act of bringing forth Zion will include the woman? Really, if you read Isaiah and you put Zion and her name, and just put her as the woman, it tells you so much. Just change the word Zion and put the mother. Just put the woman as if it's her name. They will go into her. So Eve is the mother of all living. That is a title right out of the Bible. And President Nelson said, so he gives us an apostolic blessing here. I bless you to rise to the full stature, to your full stature, and to fill the measure of your creation. So we aren't there yet. We got to do it. We have to know it. But to prepare the world for the second coming. But it's like Joseph Smith said, if you do not know the nature and character of God, you cannot know him. Well, that's on his side. If you don't know the nature and character of the Heavenly Mother, then you can't know her. But the good thing is, because most of the time she's wiped out, is you have her DNA. So your DNA is her DNA, and that DNA will resonate. Just like violin in a violin shop where you play one note and all the other violins kind of, that vibration, you are the violin. And when you hit that chord that's the mother, it goes down through your body, through your toes, and you almost feel that chill through your body.
Well, even men have that DNA.
They do, but we never talk about it, so we don't know it.
And so the men could be awakened to heaven and
Absolutely.
through the words of Solomon on Mother of the Lord with Margaret Barker.
Yes.
It says, if you seek her, you will find her. And
Yes, and that is a very
what
good point,
one has
Carolyn.
done
That's
to
so
heaven.
true. I just mean that we've been blinded. We've had one eye closed to her, both men and women. But if the women don't wake up, then how are the men going to wake up? Because they're going after the pattern that they've been raised in. So it's going to have to be the women of the world waking up and say, wait, there's more to this. And then all of a sudden you see with both eyes. And then the men were like, oh, I didn't know. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know.
And Skousen has been talking about this for decades, about how the women in the West will rise up and help save the Constitution.
Yeah.
It's the women.
But he didn't know what that would look like.
Yeah, no.
So he's calling wise women to arise and fill the measure of your creation now, to speak with the power and authority of God. Wow, what does he know that we don't know? So let me give you an insight that has been lost from the ecclesiastical teachings. Since the Queen of Heaven was kicked out of heaven, or kicked out of the temple, that was wisdom, or the lady. It was during the time of Hezekiah and his son Josiah. So that's when Isaiah was warning, hey, stop. They can't say, or they haven't, or we don't have on their records, what exactly was being done. They just say something has gone terribly wrong. And we know that many of the prophets were warning, but they're being stoned, they're being kicked out. Lehi leaves, and one of the key words, and I'll tell you that a little bit later. So the hidden laws with Zion's blessing, the law of the mother. Oh, so sorry. We must understand God's law. So the commandments of the father and the law of the mother. I'll show you where that is. The hidden laws with Zion blessings. The word of wisdom with the promises of health to the navel and marrow to the bones. Same in Proverbs 3:1. 8, it says, forget not my law. It shall be health to your navel and marrow to your bones. They're talking about this higher teaching. So in Proverbs 1:8, it says, my son, hear the instruction of your father, but forsake not the law of thy mother. Where's that?
You skipped the top one, as President Nelson said.
Oh, I'm sorry. As President Nelson said, the kingdom of heaven is not complete without women. So then he says, Proverbs 1:8, my son, thank you. Hear the instructions of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. These are the teachings of wisdom, or the lady. And it says, fools despise wisdom and instruction. I want to hear it. How many of our kids want to hear it? Proverbs 1:7. And in Proverbs 3:13 it says, happy is the man that findeth wisdom and get understanding, because she is more precious than rubies. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand are riches and honor. There's some. She is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her. Isn't that beautiful? Mother Eve to Adam. You are as an Eve to your Adam. Right? That's what we're told. Or as covenant women, to others. So sometimes you're just a covenant woman. Maybe your husband's not following it, but you can still have those teachings, and you can teach that wisdom to others, and you become a wise woman. So when we lost the Queen of Heaven fleeing into the wilderness, we lost her teachings. We lost the teachings of the woman of wisdom, and we only hear her lament in Proverbs and a few other places. She taught that a righteous woman is more precious than rubies. The mother teaches the wisdom teachings that are not found for the simple ones, for they are dark sayings, it says in the scriptures, or rather hidden teachings for those who awaken from their awful situation. Not everybody gets to know these higher laws. So arise to the full stature of their being, the full measure of their creation. That's what we want. So if women knew the power they hold, the world could become a Zion. That has to be shifted. You're going to think I'm a little crazy, but I just love this sculpture. So this is the wise covenant woman are being called to change the world, one woman at a time. And I looked for wise women. You know, if you Google that, I'm telling you, there's not much about wisdom or wise women. But this is Bernini, and I love Bernini. He was just a genius. And so this is a marble sculpture, and in it, just look at the hands on her flesh, on her body. That's marble.
That's amazing.
Marble. And how it looks.
It looks like a photograph.
It looks like, picture just happening. This is from 1600s.
Wow.
1600s. Isn't that just
And look
amazing?
how beautiful the hands are. Hands are one of the hardest things to do in art.
And so what you have, this is a story of Prosperina. How do you say it?
Prosperina.
Prosperina. Thank you. But the story is that she gets taken down into the underworld, and this is a god of the underworld, right? And it's called the Rape of Prosperina. He's taking her. She has tears in her eyes that he carved. Isn't that amazing? So her will, do you see her will is being taken from her? She doesn't have her will. She doesn't have her own sovereignty and strength. And traditionally in history, strength was all of it. But as you saw in the pictures of that video that they put out, President Nelson, she's a scientist, she's a brain surgeon, she's a nurse. We live in a time where we have autonomy and we have decision making. And we can do those things. Maybe in the past, people haven't had it. But this story is where she comes down and she's held captive. And I think that's really what this world is for a long time. It's the women of the world that come from this heavenly space, and the men, but they come to where the God of this world teachings don't allow, or they haven't. Some people figure out that it should be a loving and kind, because your DNA tells you the woman brings forth that child. He holds the child. He has tears in his wife, looking at her who she just delivered this baby through like death. And all of a sudden he wants to be a better father. And so his DNA, if he taps into his godly DNA, relationships can be healthy and holy and pure. But for those that don't, they remain selfish, and they will carnally seek after pornography or illicit relations or someone else's wife, or, and women, they've been taught in this dirty world too. So they have gone, and they are as fallen as everybody else. Even though in their hearts, they don't really want to have multiple relationships with people. They really want a dedicated relationship with a man that loves them and that they can love. But the world's taught, oh, don't be good. Some of the arguments that they're putting out for this abortion law that's going on is, women, lone moms are more impoverished, and you should not have to have children if you don't want to. And they've taken all the negative aspects because of this rape or misuse of the woman and said, oh, that's why you shouldn't be a mother. But wait a second, if we turned it around and said, I will not be a mother until I know I have a committed relationship with a man that's willing to sacrifice and love me. And I'm gonna do some tests. Is he a God man, or is he just a good guy? Is he a fake or a player, or is he the real thing? Our girls need to have a little more tests.
Ronald Reagan said, I've noticed that everyone that's for abortion is alive.
We're talking about it being a sacred right to be able to make that choice.
Well, this is their religion, and you think about throughout history, religious
and evil,
killing babies,
and not wanting life.
Yes.
I can't do it, so you're not.
And they don't want responsibility.
Yeah, and no responsibility. Let me have the fun and not the responsibility. Let me just eat cake all day long.
It's disposable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the woman becomes disposable.
Yeah.
And that's where the poverty and the horrible situation that we find. And the Lord says, take care of the widows, or those that are by themselves, and the children. And our laws, we have not really done a good job doing that, right?
Well, I even heard a thing the other day, I think it was on a Glenn Beck, one of those things, that they were interviewing people on, well, when do you think, how long do you think you should be able to abort? And one guy said, well, I think you should, if the woman wants to, I think she should be able to abort that child when the child is 8 months old. 8 months old. And where have we gone? Where have we gone from? We don't even value the child at all, even past.
I don't think they allow dogs to abort, right? If you were to do that in a
they worship animals.
At the facility, right?
So that law is going right now in California and in Maryland to be able to murder your own baby up to 28 days after birth. So it's already going forward.
28 days after birth.
It's called post-birth abortion is what they're calling it. It's murder. And that guy that won in Georgia, who was the preacher, who's an antichrist last time, he had a pastor come to his congregation, but his is post-birth abortion to age 3. So can you imagine terrible tubes and the mom just, it's okay.
Well, and who was it that thinks that they are to God above all other people, that I determine 8 months or 3 years or whatever I say it goes? How wrong that is. And then why don't we take the death sentence off, because we can abort them when they're 88 years old.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's weird when you take away God's law, that there is something sacred and that you are sons and daughters of a deity, right? That there's something so amazing. And you just say you're just a lump of cells, and when you're dead, then you're just dust anyway. So
protoplasm.
Dust at any time. So then there's no reason to have any laws that would protect life, because it's just whoever's stronger, whoever's smarter, we can do. And you see some of these things that they want to limit populations because there's just not enough. And so it's a scarcity and fear. But this one friend I told you about, he's Swiss, right? He's definitely not religious. But he did a flight, and he flew around the world, and he stopped here. And I asked him, because he's totally on this side, there's too many people, we don't have the resources. And I said, as you flew around the world, did you find it was overpopulated everywhere? And he goes, well, no, there's a lot of open areas. I go, did they have water and trees and, they could maybe farm there and do it? Well, yeah, there's a lot of space out there. And I go, so why are you saying there's too many? God, it seems like he's provided enough. He didn't really have an answer for it.
Yeah.
But I like him anyway.
There's enough and to spare.
Enough and to spare. How the Lord has done.
DNC 110.
I think it's DNC 110.
DNC 110.
The communist system, they would just consider people protoplasm to be managed. There's actually a highway to Siberia that's called the bones of a million people or something. Like they actually took the bones and used it to build the highway.
Yeah, because you're just, then you can do whatever Soylent Green, you just cycle it out, clean it up, clean protein, here's a burger. Uncle Sam. Okay, so now change subject, and this is a lovely subject. This is a beautiful thing that I hope it gives you an aha experience, right? So we know the story of the 10 virgins and the 10 lamps. 5 had lamps, but the other 5 had lamps with oil. So we have 2 different things, a lamp and a lamp with oil. I like this one lamp showing here because it shows the parallel to the menorah, the one that's the
tall one.
Brass lamp, yeah. And so it shows it has, it's an empty lamp, but the menorah in the shape of a tree. And it was that tree of life, that tree that was in the Holy of Holies that King Josiah will take out of the Holy of Holies and put on the outside. So the Second Temple never has the menorah back in, or the tree of life in there. And so, but it says, okay, on the other side, you need to have the oil to make it work. So in Proverbs 6:20-23 is a hidden key that I say most of us have missed. In Proverbs it says, the lamp, my son, keep thy father's commandments. And in Proverbs 6:23 it says, for the commandment is a lamp. And I should have read it the other way. The oil, Proverbs 6:20 says, forsake not the law of the mother. And Proverbs 6:23, and the law is the light. The oil is the liquid light. So if you have the law, which would be like your 10 commandments, the commandments of God, without the law of the mother, you don't have the oil. We always thought it was your good behavior, the gospel, understanding, your covenant. That's not what the scripture says. The law is the light, and the law of the mother, it's a parallel, right? It's showing you in 6:20, it says, my sons, keep thy father's commandments. Forsake not the law of the mother. Then he explains it down below in 6:23. For the commandment is the law. And the light of, and the law, for the commandment is the lamp, and the law is the light. And the light is the oil, or the oil is liquid light. So it takes both of those things to have the fullness. And those that will go in with the Savior for that thing, it's a lot of good people will be on the earth. A lot of good people with churches. But who's going to go in? That ceremony is it's the highest teachings, the higher teachings. Remember, Moses gave a lot of people the lower teachings, and we aren't even keeping that, the 10 Commandments, right? So he said, well, I can't give them everything, so I guess I'll just give them the second stack of things, and these are all your thou shalt nots and things. But it's the law of the mother, and that's the one you have to look for. Yes?
So do you think, and maybe this is just stretching, but as I just had this feeling, why are they trying to get rid of oil?
Oh, interesting. It's even a parallel.
Well, I mean, is that not interesting that they're so desperately trying to find alternate uses of energy and get rid of the oil?
That's interesting.
And in the scriptures they say light is truth.
Light is truth.
So they're trying to get rid of all truth too.
Yeah, that's a beautiful
Which
parallel.
could be the truth of the one.
Well, it could be all truth, right? It can be through that. And it can be the truth a lot of times. You know, it's interesting that Moses speaks to the bush, right? I think they didn't want to put that as the tree. It's a burning tree that didn't burn, but was filled with light.
Right.
And John in Revelations 1, if you look, he looks and he sees a tree. And through the tree is this vision that's given to him. Interesting, isn't it? So, and then the same with Lehi's dream. He has to get to the tree where this light and this light-filled fruit, Christ is the fruit of that tree. But if we partake of that light and that fruit of that tree, then you can be filled with light. So it takes, you know, the journey is the word of God. But the fruit is the light and the higher understanding. So that's the passing through, like to the gate, passing through into the wedding, to the higher celestial type of understanding.
Did they use olive oil in their lamps? Is
Yeah, I
that the
think
oil?
so. Yeah.
Because in Carillion photography, if you look at one drop of olive oil, it looks like the sun.
Ooh.
That's the light that's in food that you eat.
Doesn't that make you want to eat light-filled
In
food?
quantum physics, you can actually feed your body if you watch sunsets and sunrises. If you have no food, wake up and see a sunrise or a sunset.
It's just
Light
so
is
rich.
food. And the
I might have to go on a sun diet, a sunrise diet.
the Nora is the almonds. And that's
Yeah, and there's
creation.
the almond shape.
Creation.
Yeah, for the tree. And the budding staff that Aaron had, the budding staff, you know, it has the light in it.
It's interesting because it seems like the light is where the life is, because remember when the sperm hits the egg, there's that burst of
That
light?
burst of light, yes.
Yes. So the light is where life really is.
Yes,
That's
it's
something.
light.
And the mother of all living is Eve. So we can see that we're starting to see these crossovers. It's just our minds have been open to it. Somebody wants to talk. Yes.
By the way, that scripture, you're nothing to spare, is D&C 104:17.
104:17.
Oh,
that's
17.
victorious.
104:17.
There is enough to spare.
There is enough and to spare.
And
God has made enough.
104, to help me memorize, is 5 covenants. So there's a covenant, there's enough to spare.
Yeah, that would be. So
That's how you
DNC
Or
104:17.
17. So it makes 5.
Wow.
So if we have one hand with 5, then he doubles it for abundance.
Yeah, we get abundance. All right, so the commandment, there is only half. The commandments are only half of the story. But where do we learn wisdom? So here you can see the ones that are light-filled and the others that they had the lamp, but they didn't understand the law of the mother. So how many churches would even understand that? But I know this group understands. Beautiful. Okay, so the Constitution needs to be restored. So we're going back to the law, because our country's not even doing that lower law. So the Majesty of God's law is the commandments of the Father, the lamp. You need the foundation. You gotta have it. And we need to know it to restore it after it has been broken, to have a society that honors liberty under God. But we need to restore what is missing to the world in order to enter in with Christ at the feast. We need to learn that to follow the law of the mother, which will give us the oil and is the light to understanding the higher teachings for Zion to be established, the oil. So I think if people are, you know, we've gone through Isaiah's, like Jacob's ladder, and you get to the level where Jacob's name gets changed to Israel. It's this covenant change that's happening. So we need to get to that level, and at that level, Zion societies could start to be, I mean, look at the blessings that Moses read to those people, abundance and food, and you can have all of those blessings. But if you want to go, I think you get to the door of Zion, you might even get into Zion, but if you want to get into where Christ is, you're going to need the oil. So we might as well start learning about both, but...
And that's the problem, is they didn't have enough faith to
Somebody
follow
needs to
him
mute.
to get the higher law.
Yeah, whoever's out there, can somebody mute? We're hearing
Background
noise. So the Constitution needs to be restored for liberty, but the wise women have more to do, and I think that's what President Nelson's talking about. So as founders originally intended, the Constitution needs to be restored, but it's women who connect to heaven that will bring down this additional information.
I believe we literally go to the veil to get those children and bring them here. I
Wow.
think that's how we connect to heaven.
During childbirth?
Yeah, because it's, they say the
Makes
sanctification.
sense.
Sanctification is for the elect. Sanctification. And so once you start studying that in the scriptures and you look for the sanctification of the elect, then it says women are sanctified in childbirth, which would make sense why the men stand up in the temple and say, hey guys, you need to be clean every whit. The women will have that process of being servants because God's kings and queens are servant kings and queens, right? They're not overlords beating you down. They're to lift you up. Okay. All right. So efficiency and okay. So let's go over the Majesty of God's Law, chapter 27 or 31 in the ebook. So if you have an ebook or a later publishing, you'll start with 31. If you have a regular chapter, you'll start in 27. So if you have your books with you, we're going to go through that. So we have to learn to reorganize, but efficient stuff, and this will lead us to efficient self-governing systems of laws that have been revealed by God to his servants clear back to the days of Adam. Then we can begin to uncover the laws of the mother. So Adam and Eve taught their sons and daughters the laws of God that return us to heaven. One of the keys in your scriptures is when you see that they were teaching their sons and daughters, you know that they're teaching a whole law system. When it just starts breaking down and it's just the son of the son of the son of, they have gone just with the basics, the 10 Commandments. But we know that Lehi taught his sons and daughters, and Adam and Eve taught their sons and daughters. So it's a little catchword that you'll start to find.
And what's the heading again where you are?
Eventually, the people must be organized in God's own way.
That's right.
Okay. So we know Adam and Eve had it. Enoch was a restorer from a sinful city, and he took up the righteous. So there's a group that's carried out. Noah and his wife taught their sons and daughters, so they had the information. Egypt started with a righteous form of government, and by the time Abram and Sarah, before their covenant, his father had apostatized, so where they were up in Ur, and Egypt had also gone astray, so they had lost a lot of it. So Abram and Sarai were restorers, and then their name is changed to Abraham and Sarai. So, Sarah, sorry. And Moses was a restorer. He brought the tabernacle, the temples, the higher teachings. But you know what? He really brings more than 10. But in the Holy of Holies, he would have taught the higher things for those that were prepared. And then Jesus Christ was a perfect example and a restorer. And he had to show that the temple had become unclean, right? He cleansed the temple. So modern day restoration of temples, in the modern day restoration of temples with Joseph Smith and the rebuilding of temples, the women are put back in. And Joseph Smith spoke of deacons and deaconesses and priests and priestesses, and in the temples, kings and queens. So we know that there's a parallel system, but then it wasn't long after he's gone that that system of deaconess and priestess are scrubbed. Because they probably didn't know. They didn't know it, and so they just took it out. But it doesn't mean it's not supposed to be there. All right, so Avraham Gileadi explains Isaiah's teaching. Isaiah, like John and Zenos, identified the end-time saviors of God's people as servants. Now, these servants were priests and priestesses, ministers, I guess we use the same word, of Jehovah. And that's in Isaiah 61, 6 and 7, who are of the covenant. And in Isaiah 55:5, it says, not those who harden their hearts when God brings forth more. And
555, covenant.
yeah, but those that harden their hearts aren't receiving that covenant,
No.
right? And they cling to the precepts of man, and they cling to the faults rather than the pure points of doctrine. So if you bring this up in a group, and I don't care what their religious background, and it doesn't sound like something that's familiar to them, they might persecute you. So all you can do is really share quietly, one with another. If you see someone else who has kind of like, or you throw something out in the conversation, it goes over most people's heads, and someone comes up later and says, what exactly were you talking about? It, you know what I mean? It rang her chord, her violin. So those are the ones you can start to share these things. So God's covenant promise to Abraham and Sarah, and those that make and keep these temple covenants. There were my little, this was the covenant on, remember I said it was on the tombs of Tuya and Uya on their sarcophagus. It is the promised covenant, the same one that God gives, that for their land, for their priesthood, for their children, for prosperity. And so I asked Bruce Porter, I'm like, I can't remember what they need. And so you can see on the side, Bruce Porter texts back and he said, the little teepee on top is I give, then the Ankh is the second one down, the kind of the cross with a loop on top, eternal life, and the Dajet is posterity, and then the Wa'az symbol is priesthood. And so those are the sickle, or the crook and the flail, those two, one to bring you in and one to kind of tap you on the bum. So one we can gather and one we can kind of...
It looks like a skeleton.
This looks like a little skeleton.
It looks like a little skeleton.
Yeah, and then
oh my God.
Seneb, or the different way you say it, but it's actually the line across the bottom and the loop that goes up and around. That is this eternal life. It's putting that name and that blessing for eternity.
The one on priesthood, that with the line and that little tower, it looks like electrical energy tower.
It does. It
and
kind of
it's
does.
priesthood power.
And in this world, what they show is that it's a struggle between the God of heaven and the God of earth. So it's like Jesus Christ and Satan. And it's tilted on this earth. And they're trying to get it to stand up. So there's ropes on it. The two guys are pulling it back and forth and trying to get it straight up. And then when that's straight up, then you receive that.
What's the two guys?
Set, which represents Satan, and Horus, which represents Christ.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, also, it's the Abraham covenant, because it's the posterity, priesthood. It's the same.
It's the same five.
Yeah.
And eternal life. Do you see how it connects? So from Adam and Eve to Egypt, through the worlds, like through all the nations, when they follow those blessings, those covenant promises, they prosper. They receive intellectual things. Their minds are open and clear.
The tent guy, Robert K. was talking about the tree of life, and he said that my father dwelt in a tent, the shortest scripture in there. He said the tent is communing with God. Yes.
Oh,
the higher
that's even
teachings.
So that little triangle
yes, is you're in there communing with God to give.
To receive.
To receive the things. That's
okay, so
Robert
if you didn't hear that, I'm going to repeat for those who are online.
Yeah.
So what she said is the tower that Bruce Porter kind of shortened, because each one of these has a
Not Bruce Porter, sorry, Robert K.
But I'm saying Bruce Porter said that little teepee is I get, but Robert K., who has kind of a mystic Jewish background, he said when Abraham or Lehi dwelt in the tent, is that right?
Yep.
That the tent represents, it's a temple. So your tent is your temple, and those are the teachings. So you could see this as more as a tent, the temple teachings. And remind you that in the temple teaching, the man and the women for the highest level, right? She's in the tent. She's the tree inside the temple. So that's where the Lord then can bestow upon you these blessings, these covenant blessings.
Well, can I mention too that a Lakota medicine man taught me that Morning Star was Christ's name in the Old Testament, and when he came, the star shone down on the earth. Therefore, teepees, which are our covering, and the light inside is Christ, but that the teepees have been dotted all over this land.
And they're built
thousands of years.
And a lot of times they'll have the 12 posts or the 13 posts. And they go up, and the sun is above and the earth below.
It's got that pillar like
the light coming in. How beautiful. So Hugh Nibley, who wrote the following explanation, this we've talked about a little bit, but this is, there's Egyptian form, and then there's more of a cursive form. And so this was more the cursive form, but his father, or his grandfather, had been involved in the mysteries. And so when it came down for Nibley's grandfather to make the hardware in the temple, those places where the hinge opens, right, on that teaching, and the door opens to enter in, this is the little part that's behind the door. So on the door is the name of God. And I should have put that one in here too, but I just did the back one because it's the hidden teachings behind the doorknob. And this circle is surrounded by a botanical motif. These are the words of Hugh Nibley. circled by small rings. If you can see on here, there's small rings, right? And some of the rings are just rings, and some of the rings have a little tail on it. That right there. So of these rings is an Ankh, which is an ancient symbol for life that we just looked at, right? Like the cross with a little loop on it. Sorry. And in the salutary title placed after the name of the initiate. So initiate is somebody who's going into the temple to learn these things. They are given this symbol. It's the Ankh, which we just saw, the Dajed pillar, the Seneb, that's the one with the line underneath it. And he says the Ankh as a symbol represents the umbilical cord of the earth. And the 3 words mean health to the navel, marrow to the bones, and strength. And in royal tombs, the last of the 3 was the Waz symbol. Remember the crook and the flail. And the Waz symbol means power in priesthood, or using the power of God. The Heteb symbol, meaning peace and salvation. So the Shen symbol is, remember the line that went around and then had a line that was attached that goes around the entire name? If I back up. The Shen is the circle there that has a little line underneath it. And so that one, the Shen sign, is the personal seal and sign for eternity. The one everlasting round. The Shanaha. Right? So isn't that interesting? And if you want to find that, that's in the book, the Manti Temple Centennial Book from 1988. That's the one that I was asking, what's all this symbolism? We should just do a thing just on the symbolism on the doors. It's so fantastic. I could just bring it. I could do that short. If you cut some of those people to like an hour so they don't have the full 2 hours on some of the people that are coming, so we can get some of these things maybe weaved in and some of the teachings of the Majesty in there. So it's just not always a speaker for 2 hours. What do you guys think?
Well, you mean next week?
Well, it doesn't have to be next week, but as we're bringing in speakers, kind of limit it so we can have the additional time to put in some of these other things.
Okay.
I don't know. You guys, we'll talk about that later. You decide. Okay, so God's law was separated, but instead of one law, they separated into church and state. And the founder said that all religions work with God's law and natural law. So Benjamin Franklin said, we can work with whatever religion you have. Not no religion, but with whatever religion you have. And those are the basic. There's the Creator. The Creator has a moral code. There's a right and a wrong to be followed. And the Creator holds mankind responsible for the way they treat each other. All mankind live beyond this earth. That was one of the teachings. And the next life, mankind are judged for their conduct here. Well, with secular humanism, or atheism, or whatever you want to call it, agnosticism, right, they can say there is no creator, there is no life, we have no responsibility, there's nothing beyond this. So if I want to kill my baby a month after it's born, it's really nothing to me, no skin off my back, right? Would you be seeing that? I mean, think of Solomon with the test of who the mother was. Like, oh, we'll just cut this baby in half, and the mother's like, whoa, 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 no, give it to her, but do not kill my child. That's a mother's heart. You aren't going to get it the other way. All right, so faith in good versus secularism. Our Constitution was for a God-fearing and moral people. Secularism, humanism, as a philosophy seeking to interpret life based solely on the material world, but without God. And it shifts the focus from the eternal world to temporal or temporary earth concerns. Abortion, transsexualism, sex education mean different things to a secular or atheist opposed to a person who believes in God and God's law.
And that really, I mean, that is the divide.
That's it.
It really is. And so you can see why they're so upset over this abortion thing.
Yeah.
Is to them, it's a nothing, it's a mass, it doesn't matter.
No, it's her life that matters.
Yeah.
Anything else doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's such a national sin, like what last week with slavery was a national sin. We have to cure that or we will be swept out.
Yeah, and that's wrong too. So the Bill of Rights unravels without natural rights. So the government then enforces their laws, not God's law. So atheism, intermarketism, communism, tyranny of power over those who are forced to follow the laws that they create, but not with God's laws. So we are experiencing tyranny when our basic freedoms are removed. When you don't have speech or the right to gather and petition, commerce, banking, medical treatment, lack of privacy of our person and our papers, our information, education of our children, the way we want them to believe in God, possible stewardship of our children. If we don't do what they say, they take your children away. If we do not follow the dictates of the elite governing class. So on page 435 in Majesty of God's Law, principle number 8, you don't need to look it up, you can just, it's
You
one
can
of the
look on
ones on her card, 8.
card number 8.
It says mankind are endowed by God with certain unalienable rights. And that's what the Bill of Rights was really expounding, are those things that they're yours. You can't cut them off of you, they are yours by God, not by government. The United States has a manifest destiny to become an example of God's law under the restored Constitution. John Adams said, America as an opening of a grand scene and design in providence, or God, for illumination of the ignorant and the emancipation of the slavish part of humankind all over the earth. If you have God, then you're not responsible to anybody, and you might as well be a tyrant. Thomas Jefferson looked upon the development of our freedom under the Constitution as the world's best hope. And we need to know and understand the founding principles in the Constitution to restore it. So America will recover her destiny, right? So now we can go to, I'll just go over, if you have chapter 25, these are the 6 chapters. And these are the things that we would like you to read or understand before, if you want to do anything with that Liberty Republic. There's no cost, there's no anything. It's just like, how do we gather and become self-governing little ships? And how do we gather with like-minded people? And that's all it is. It's just make your own lifeboat and connect it to some other lifeboats of similar people. If you get a leak, maybe they can help. You know what I mean? It's not going to be hordes jumping on your boat because they don't have anything in their lifeboat. So chapter 25. You go to by Plymouth today, and they don't have anything about religion.
Robin, isn't secularism though the separating church and state?
Yes.
So isn't that a good thing though, so that we don't have to worry about the state telling how we can believe and how we can speak about religion?
Right.
And
So the separation was that there shall not be one religion that can force you to believe, like the Catholic Church did to Italy or France. So you can't have one, but they allowed the capital to be used by any religion that believes in God and does. So they could have rotating things. You know, you can have a belief in God. I can't dictate to you how you have to live. So those 5 principles that Benjamin Franklin outlined.
It works for every religion.
It works for every religion, and it's just the basic moral code. So long as the government will protect those basic values, then you can have a Catholic president or a Jewish president or any of the president, because they will honor those basic beliefs. But it's not for that. What they did protect against is that you cannot have one dictating to others how they should believe.
You must all be Catholic.
Yeah.
That's how they.
That's the separation of the church and the state.
Wow.
So that the church does not dictate
To
the
the
laws
state.
of the land, and vice versa.
And that's really
That's what it meant, not
Roman.
taking it out of everything.
Right.
And so we saw an infringement of that with COVID, where they were inflicting the government law on churches, saying
Yes.
you can't
Yes.
do X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
Well, that's the way it was in
between church
Romania.
and government.
Because when we were there, if you joined the church, it's like you left your country. And you lost a lot of rights. And 17% of all taxes went to the church, to the Romanian Orthodox Church. It's that way now.
So that's why the 5013C is kind of what's been forcing these churches to shut down during COVID.
Because
They
they
were
have a
holding
tax
over their
benefit.
heads, blackmailing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, chapter 21. Does anybody have the page?
Chapter 21 or
No, I'm
25?
25.
25 is 429.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we're going to go through these. We're not going to go through them entirely, but these are just kind of the main topics. So America's Manifest Destiny is based on the 28 principles that is found in the 5,000-year leap. So this book was written just to expound upon you have equal justice under the law, but it does not mean you have equal things for every person. Every person's equal. That's logically untrue. So these are the shorthand version of what's in this, and these are the great principles to teach. And this is what Julene is teaching on that Moms for America on Thursday nights with Al.
7:30.
7:30, and it's fabulous. So that's really what this chapter is talking about, and that Benjamin Franklin's is just what Nicole just asked about, and they wanted to make sure that people want to say that free people cannot survive under a republic constitution unless they remain virtuous and morally strong. So morally strong is no lie, cheat, steal, and they don't want to have corrupt masters, right? The more vicious you become, the more prison guards you need, right, to keep them from killing each other. But if everybody's taking care of their own, it's a light hand. You don't really need a lot of that. Samuel Adams, so on page 430 on mine, it says Samuel Adams says, we were praying people, but Samuel Adams says, the father of the revolution, said, if we would most truly enjoy the gifts of heaven, let us become a virtuous people, and then we shall both deserve and enjoy it. So it's really
I love the deserve part.
You deserve it.
Because you got to earn it.
Yeah, you don't just get to go. And then principle number 4 in Washington's famous farewell address, he said, of all dispensations and habits which led to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. And let us, with caution, indulge the support that morality can maintain.
Supposition.
And let us, with caution, indulge the supposition that morality can be maintained without religion. You take religion out of just basic teachings, out of schools and out of things, and that's what we've done. And we see that you can't really master that. I mean, you see these hordes doing terrible things. And then they re-established that also in the Northwest Ordinance when it was passed by Congress in 1787. And they required that religion, morality, and knowledge be taught in the schools. That the religion must be emphasized as universal principles rather than a creed of dogma. You know, like it's not the Catholic creed or anybody else's creed. Just those same 5 fundamental principles.
So that's the same year as the Constitution, 1787. They put that in.
Yeah. So in these, it just has principle number 5 and 6, and you can see in principle number 7, the proper role of government is to protect equal rights, not provide equal things. So this chapter is really going through the 5,000-year lead. I'm not sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the 28 principles.
And that's really what it is. And so we have the principle number 8 is mankind are endowed by God with certain unalienable rights. So you take God out of it and you put government in, and that's where we get in trouble. So we can go through these as you study. We don't need to do all of them. So I just wanted to outline kind of that's where they are. Those things that really need to be understood if you want to do self-governance. Because without them, that's your basic. So if you want a little lifeboat that you withdraw from government schools or government healthcare or government things, you're going to have those 28 principles as your kind of your main structure.
So this is really like the Reader's Digest version of the 5,000-year lead.
Yes.
So those of you who haven't taught it, if we're not going to do it, go through at least this chapter and
just read that.
Go through it.
That's why, when Jeff Allen was here, he said, if you would just read these chapters, these 6 chapters, then you're on solid ground. And then you can start setting up your tithing groups, other people that believe. And if they want to come to your group, oh, that sounds like a great idea, I'm going to join. And they haven't done any of the things to prepare them. It's kind of like, I might not invite you right now. Because when things get tricky, I don't want them taking my chickens and frying them up for dinner. I want those eggs. You know what I mean? You have to understand people's individual rights, and you can't step on their toes because you just want it. So
Nicole, you've got a degree in the virtues, right? You were teaching those classes?
I do not have a degree in
what was it?
But thank you for
But you were teaching it, right?
No, I just have the Virtue Project.
Yes, the Virtue Project.
Is a beautiful project to research, just identifying what the virtues are, and they have a beautiful paragraph on them.
Oh, that's nice. Do they tie in with these?
Yes, that's why,
Yeah.
You can buy that at the momsforamerica.us, but I know she was teaching the classes, so.
Oh, okay.
I was like, Nicole was
I did like a thing in here that one time.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Beautiful. So the Virtue Project, and we can send that out as a link for Sunday Government. So let's go to chapter 27 on mine. It is page 465. And it says, eventually the people must be organized in God's own way. If he's going to be the ruler, that's what we need to do. If you have the ebook or later printing, it will be in chapter 31. It says, in the first chapter of Deuteronomy, Moses describes how God wanted to have people organized. And this becomes an important principle in God's law. So God accomplishes this by organizing an entire population under God's laws by families. So you start by your family unit. Maybe it's you and your husband and your kids. Maybe you're retired and it's just you and your husband. Maybe your husband's not on board with this, but you can build your own little life raft, and he doesn't have say over what you can do or what you're not going to do. You're going to build your own little raft. You just warn him, you don't always get to jump in my boat. I don't know. We'll see how this one goes. But anyway, it's supposed to be organized by families, and that's the way that we're going to try to do this. So he organized the group, and imagine how smart this is, right? Into groups of 10 families. From 10 families, then there was a bigger one that was of 50 families. But if everybody's on these 28 principles of respect and self-governance, then you aren't having the 10 families hunt and raid the other 10 families, right? Everybody is cooperative and working for their own best self-interest, which then is in the best self-interest of everyone, if they're following those principles. It says, Moses organized them, and he said that they were pagans. But I want to explain pagan. Pagan just means that they didn't understand maybe the Roman teachings or the Catholic teachings. Not that they weren't spiritual, and not that they didn't believe in God. They 100% believed in God and following God's laws. So this does not mean that those people that set up these organizations were atheists. It just means that they might have believed in, I don't know who they're, Thor, I think maybe was one of those, but he was a son of God. So it was just a different name for God's laws.
Mandy Green calls pagans countryside people.
Country people. Yeah, they were the country people. They weren't following the city people's rules. So we might be calling ourselves pagans, but, followers of Jesus Christ. But we're going to be the country mice, right? Taking care of our own country house.
So Robin, when Jeff talked about Cleon Skousen talking to President David O. McKay,
yes.
Did David O. McKay say why the church could not, because this church is the organization that Christ set up, but why did he say that the people needed to organize separately?
Well, I think the scriptures tell us that. It says that within the church there will grow up both wheat and tares. And there will come a time when there will be a separation. And the Lord said, you don't harvest, the harvest will come. And then the separation will come. And if you want to restore it, you've got to restore it in God's way. So you're right. It's really like the government. Jefferson, he had the wards. They separated the earth, and they put the grid on the United States so that you could have the 6 acres and so many people in their city. And then the church kind of did the same thing, which is like a government under a government, right? We have our wards and we have our state presidency. It's really amazing. Like you really have a substructured government, and they can do a lot. But when it gets down to a time that there's great trouble, if we know that maybe only 10% of the people really have followed the commandments to put aside some food in storage. Well, what happens next year? They're planting this year. They can't get the fertilizer this year. You can get the grain this year. Maybe it's gone up in price, but it's accessible. You can get it. What happens next year when they didn't plant this year? They aren't going to have the harvest in the same. What you're paying now will go whoop, up very high. And then if you're going to make it into chips or crackers or, and then you're going to ship it in trucks with gasoline that's diesel, how much are you going to go get a bag of chips? You might be paying $15 for a bag of chips.
Plus paper is getting scarce that packages it, and plastic.
And aluminum cans. Coke said they might do bottles and refill bottles because aluminum is becoming an issue. So when you're giving away military weapons to a country that doesn't even in our interest in the Ukraine, you're depleting our stockpile of weaponry. Who's making it? Right? If you're emptying our oil reserves that were filled up at $2 a gallon and they're being sent out to save everybody a penny, what are you going to do when your ships and your jets and your things need it for national security?
On that. I have a good friend who, her husband was out of work because of that. He's on an oil rig. So what just happened is they opened up all the oil rigs right now. So they're depleting what Trump had stored.
Yeah.
That he finally has a job, and he's actually opened up the pipeline, and people just don't know it. They haven't put it in the news, but her husband's got a great paying job now. They're pumping oil like crazy now.
Well, good.
Anyway.
Good, that's what we want.
So why should
Because-
release the oil?
I don't know, I haven't seen it yet, but you have a friend that's on a rig that knows it.
That knows that her husband's on the rig right now, and it just happened within the last 3 weeks.
But aren't they gonna use up the reserves?
They're using up the reserves, but at the same time,
They are
secretly, because it's not in the news, she's like, oh no, they're pumping.
But even if they have to do that, when you pump oil, you have to refine it into gasoline.
There's lots
It
of
takes a
them.
lot of time. So, I mean.
So we're behind the.
We're behind here. Well, so let's just get through these real quick, and I'm just gonna highlight, you can go back and read, but we just have like 10 minutes and then we can talk. Okay, so chapter 27, being organized in God's way, and Nancy, I just think that might be the reason. It is organized, it's given us a perfect pattern, right? We've all been raised in that pattern, we understand how it works. If you had to reorganize, you could take any member of a church and say, hey, crazy people, let's just organize, get organized in this group. And anybody that's been raised in the church could really kind of organize. They're like a Boy Scout, you know, let's just get some
Well,
organization.
it's interesting that's the pattern since the Old Testament times, since the Book of Mormon begins with a family and then getting another family, and then the 6 times that the saints had to leave and go as groups west.
Yeah, they did
Their
their
migration,
boundaries.
6
And they
times.
planted for those ahead. But there's so many people within religions in general that think socialism is Zionism. And that what you have is mine. So we're just all gonna come over to your garden tomorrow and just take
It's
everything.
force versus freedom.
Force versus freedom.
Or
And
liberty.
that mentality has gone into our education, it has gone into our churches. I mean, a lot of the churches are very woke churches, right? It doesn't even resemble what God was teaching or what Christ was teaching. So that's a lot of people, even in Catholic churches, like, what is the Pope doing? And it just doesn't even matter the religion, but you're the 503, the tax advantage has kind of set people up that they will do what the kind of government says.
Nikki had something to say.
Yeah, well, it's
Sorry.
just I think COVID was a good little preliminary example of when the organization structure of the church is closed down. We all did our own things in our families and our homes, and we got together with friends, and we,
Yeah.
you know, and so it was like, okay, people, can you do this? Because this might be coming in the future on a grander scale for a longer time. But you got a little preliminary to see it's still going to be. We're still
Yes.
going to have that network of people.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
But how fabulous the Come Follow Me and the way Nelson set it up and you do homeschool, home church, really, and everybody, I think a lot of people got so much out of it, right? So we were being prepared. And that's, if you're listening, you are being prepared. If you're critical, you're jumping off the ship. So we can stay in the ship, but we also need our little life rafts in case there's something that cataclysmic, but you don't have communication. You don't have things you're going to have to protect.
Or like Peter, be asked to get out and walk on the water toward Christ.
Right?
Yeah, there might be a little swimming there off the ship. So, okay, chapter 28 is strong warning from the founders and the early American leaders, and the warning of Benjamin Franklin. What happens when people become corrupt? This covenant land, it starts to go from the blessings to the cursings. And he says, let's see, who said this? What happens when the people become corrupt? Franklin said, I agree to this Constitution, and I believe further that this is likely to be well administrated for a course of years, and can only end in the despotism as other forms have done before it. And when the people shall become so corrupt as to need despotic government, being incapable of any of it, they can't self-govern anymore. They've forgotten. They're just, begging. And then when a society decays to the point where people begin to fear for their lives and their property, and demand for police state has always been inevitable.
Yeah, look at this, what happened right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then in his Washington's famous farewell address, based on the wisdom and brilliant mind that he had, what did he say? We should mention the warnings of Benjamin Franklin. He says the warning is on page 483 in mine. He says, warning against one branch of government devouring the others. And it is important that those entrusted with administration confine themselves within the respected constitutional spheres, avoiding in the exercise of power of one department any encroachment upon the other. The spirit of encroachment tends to consolidate power of all the departments in one, and thus creates a real despotism. So that's the problem, is this usurpation by one over the others.
This is why they don't want this taught to people.
And I think it's Jefferson, he talks about a couple more, he says, Jefferson's warning was, it's on page 487 of mine, that the great object of my fear is the federal judiciary. That body will that like gravity, ever acting with noiseless foot and unalarming advances. A noiseless foot, they're sneaky. They just put it into a law. They gain ground step by step, and holding what it gains is engulfed insidiously the state governments into the laws of the federal government.
The jaws.
Into the jaws. Sorry.
That's even worse.
Into the jaws of the federal government. Yeah, and so you can see, this is a very scary time. So there's all sorts of
it keeps coming back to this, what we're going right now this week with the, they want to put it back into the states. Let the states know on this abortion thing. Let the people stop, get the federal government out of there in this insidious takeover.
But the Democrats will just want to vote on it in Congress right now and make it a law of the land, which is abusing that.
That's abusing.
Yes,
federal government never supposed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So chapter 29, we're going to go through these to skip. The founders knew, it says, preparing America for the adoption of God's law. The founders knew that someday America would pick up where Moses left off and bring the splendid order of God's law, which would lay the foundation for the glorious political kingdom of God, described by Daniel. But of course they also knew this could not happen until the people had been prepared in a very special way to enjoy that blessing. So Hamilton, he says down, it's like the 4th chapter down there, says, over the years I've tried to carefully study the lives and careers of those who were of Hamilton's talent and temperament, and it has been astonishing to discover how far off track they have led America. It was also shocking to find out how many unconstitutional twists and turns have been justified because of some emergency, or trying to cover the depression, or attempting to improve on the formula, the Founding Fathers' formula, or to help the poor, right? It's fear, it's emergency.
Welfare.
Yeah. So, on the page it says, could the preparation for God's law be a massive reformation? And so it says, but what if the masses of the people reject the call to reform and continue reveling in this decadence of degradation, which Jesus said would prevail in the later days, just as it did in the days of Noah, right? So we're going to be seeing this pattern. And so then in here he talks about really what he has in the cleansing of America. So preparing the people is chapter 29, and that, you can read, and he gives it, if you want to know a little bit more of the prophecies, you can pick this up, but you don't need to. And then in chapter 30, it says, okay, we've gone through a cleansing, people have awakened. There's some people that want to follow a different one. Not everyone will agree with that. And then you'll have people that want to break into homes and take things, and we're seeing mobs start to form in all states, in all cities. There was one group of thieves that went up Hobble Creek Canyon. That's like this little place down by me. But there are a couple of beautiful homes up in that area. And they went in and they robbed 3 houses. Carol lives in that area. She was here telling me about that last time we came. And there was a Ferrari in one of them. So they took the Ferrari and they were driving to San Diego. And luckily they were able to catch it because there's one road basically. And so they caught the guy. But they're going in Beverly Hills, in wealthy areas, and they're going in groups, waiting, they're watching, they will watch, they go into the upper rooms, they'll climb fences, go up to the upper room, go right into the bedrooms, go right into the closets, because that's usually where people have put their jewelry or whatever they might have.
Money, saves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the bad news, right? And we know that lots of bad news. But the good news is Zion. Chapter 30 is setting up a new order of things. And this is how, this chapter is about the rebirth of America, right? That there will come a time where there will be enough knowledge that needs to be restored. But we're hoping this type of thing and teaching the 5,000-year leap, the foundational principles, that's how you will get there. So it's the initial challenge will be to decentralize, because a lot of the collapse will happen at the top. So what do you do if all of a sudden there's not a, your school system isn't functioning? What if your healthcare, whatever, Medicaid just collapses? What if, a lot of these social programs just, the bottoms fall out because the money means nothing? You have to be able to do your own health and healing, right? The word of wisdom, understanding, like a lot of you guys are healers and using oils and all sorts of beautiful things. That it's like a mother's wisdom. Oh, you're hot. Here, let me put a cool cloth on your head. Maybe we don't have to pump you full of Tylenol. We just don't know what things are available that we can be learning. And so that's the challenge. But a free enterprise economy is just, which will soon go into operation, because this is what happens when you're locked in, or people say, oh, I have this, can I trade with that for you? And somebody's like, oh, I can make that pretty easily. I'll just make some of that and they'll bring me stuff. So at first it might start out as a little bit of a barter system. Yeah. But within our little Liberty Republics, you want to have in your mind, what could I do, trade? What's my knowledge? Could I be a teacher? Could I be a healer? Could I be, what else can you do that somebody would trade for? Can I be a midwife or whatever? So this is kind of the new order of things, or when people are put back into groups that have their preparations, and then they have their group of 10 friends, but that group of 10 friends and their family are loosely affiliated with another group. We don't have each other's numbers. I don't need that. We don't have to have fines or fees or anything like that. It's a loose affiliated group of like-minded individuals. That's really what the little Liberty Republics are talking about. You start with your group, and that's what we're saying, just come and learn, establish how to do it, then you can do it, because it's not that hard, and then you know the things to put in place. And it's just, back of your mind, it's just a little safety thing. So, let's see, everyone over 8 must know God's law. So then you start teaching these fundamental principles in your education. You teach them the founding fathers. You teach them the actual principles of God's law. Then everyone over 8 is self-responsible. It's just, we don't teach them that they just do what I say because I said it. They understand God's law. And it says, the God of heaven shall set up his kingdom, which will never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall stand forever. So once these groups start to restore, and the rest of the world's kind of in chaos, hopefully there are other people, like maybe the people in China have been learning the 28 principles, and they're like, oh, some people do this naturally. Like I saw one of the Ukrainians, and the military had gone through, and there was a family, and people had to get out to get food. If they got out and went for food, the people in their village were shot. There were like 50 people killed in that village. But their family had just gone into the basement, and I looked down, and he was showing, this is where he slept in the cellar, and I'm noticing, he's got a bin of potatoes, he's got a bin of wheat, he's got a bin of, they didn't have to go out. So the people came through, didn't even see them, weren't looking for them, they went their way, and they survived. So pretty horrible, but sometimes that's how catastrophes happen. So let's see, let's go to, there's so much in each one of these. 31, we're almost done. And I hope I am almost done. About 5 minutes, we're almost done. Okay, the restoration of the original Constitution. So the Constitution as it was originally intended needs to be put in place. And so after the cleansing of America, the primary difference will be the quality of the people. The traumatic scourging during the cleansing will reduce to virtuous people. Not everybody will agree. Not everyone will be of the same religion. But they probably will have some sort of faith. If they didn't have faith before, right, it will say some will fall on their knees and curse God and die. Others will plead for repentance and save me. They'll turn to God. They might have not believed in God, but that's a story of a Buddhist and somebody jumping out of the plane and they say, God save me, and come down the hands. Well, then people believe. Because they've been forced. They know it's not of their own will. They have no power in this situation sometimes. And I think that's this was it contrite heart, broken heart, contrite spirit, right? You truly begin to rely on the Lord, and you truly listen for those things that you're being asked to do, to fill the full measure of your creation. What is it? We each have something that's a little different. We came here for specific reasons. So that's that one. Then we go to 32. Anybody gets there before I do?
549.
Thank you. There it is. Okay. So once that happens, once the cleansing, and once you start getting reorganized and you start building up, and And this now becomes a bottom-up situation. The most trusted person, man or woman, in your group might go and meet with the other most trusted person in that group to give you the information. So it's always the bottom up. You put forward the person of virtue and intellect and person you trust. You just don't print out billboards and say, I'm running for Senate, right? Who in the heck is that person? You let the people, and that's the natural process, and pretty soon then you have your group that they meet as a bill, they come back, they tell you what their stuff is, and then that group at the bill, they do it, and that ends up maybe being your representative from 50 or 100 families, that then they can say, gosh, we've got some extra of this, and you have that, and, you know, we want to, we're really good, I don't know, whatever that group is. Maybe we've got some doctors here, we've got some dentists here, and then they can kind of coordinate and then say, we've got some great teachers. These are the kind of teachers we want in our community. That could be just a natural thing, right? And if we re-elect, it's interesting that right now the school boards that are being elected in Utah, it's the standard, the union-backed ones are kind of getting a slam down, and the little mom that's just like, this isn't right, she's getting the votes. So those people that are, you know, like self-governing, small government, natural Republican-based platform, God-fearing, have been pushed out by rhinos, which I would say would be like Romney, Cox, Curtis. They might say, a big fella, act as if they know, put on a suit and tie, go to church, but they're not this small conservative. This will be, those people will have no say in this. They have to be ousted.
My brother-in-law's great-grandfather wrote in his journal the prophecy you may have heard of Joseph Smith about that the United States would be divided up and that foreign powers would come and it would be split apart. There would be roving gangs in the large cities and they'd be running rampant throughout the country. But it would be the boys from the mountains and the establishment of the Constitution. So it's exactly what we're talking. So Joseph Smith actually saw this play out, as did Washington.
And the prophets in Washington, they knew because they studied history. And every great civilization starts to decay from within, right? Everybody wants from somebody else. They want the serfs to work for them for free. And they want the servers to wear masks while they're in their ball gowns. And, you know.
I actually put the whole Washington vision on Tammy's, the part that you wanted to show us.
Who's the artist? Is Colette's artist as you walk out?
Oh, John McNaughton.
John McNaughton is the artist of that story.
And she's in the white clothing, right?
So you can buy it on his thing.
Okay, so this is the reestablishment. And so the next slide, let me show you real quickly. That's just a review of the book quickly. You can take more time and read those 6 chapters that you like. This is an invitation I even give to you for a meeting at Jeff Allen's house to set up groups or to learn about how to set up groups. So you can get started.
Oh, that was last week then.
Oh, did I put the wrong 28? What's next?
It's May 4th today.
May 4th is next week's, I looked at the calendar wrong. I'm so sorry. Next,
12th.
Thursday.
The 12th.
It's the 12th. May 12th. May 12th. I'm so sorry, you guys. May 12th. We'll have Colette send it out if you want to do this. And so you can come. It's an opportunity. We're going to do it in the evening, 6:30, so you can bring your husband, because it's better to have everybody on board than it is one trying to explain to the other, and it will be real quick. And so you get the concept. There's no cost. There's no commitments. It's just a way to withdraw and replace. Withdraw from government programs, replace them with your own independence. So you and your family independent and not reliant on government. That's really the whole purpose of it.
Will they be doing that another time? Because I'm going out of town. I wanted to go to that. Is there going to be another one?
We could probably set up another one after that if there's enough people that want to do it.
Yeah, so we can't be there.
What is it?
It's in my neighborhood.
And it's in Maryland's neighborhood. So that's really across from the roller mills down there, right? Behind?
Oh, yeah, on the way to Costco, you turn left.
Okay.
So if we can't bring our husband, because my husband can't sit that long in a place, so.
Well,
Is
you
it
can
okay
just,
if I can come?
Yeah, if you absolutely.
Well, I sure hope so. I don't have a husband.
Please, the trick is sometimes the husband, the wife might be the one that's gung-ho or the husband's gung-ho, and there's animosity. And we don't really want a group where there's a lot of animosity.
My husband's okay. It's just
he's okay. And so that's really, that's been Jeff's thing. He's like, you know, it's a by invitation, and it's a trust. And you don't want somebody saying like, you guys are going da. It's not that. It really is just trying to go through Majesty and follow that. Okay, I have one more. So that's the end of the presentation. I'd like to share about my adventure to Chaco Canyon and Mesa Verde. It is the Machu Picchu of the Southwest. It was just absolutely amazing. It's a massive temple complex hidden away. And I want to do a presentation to show you how it might relate to the Book of Mormon and possibly the Menmount believers. So we can see that this group of people, they were like star priests. They understood the heavens, timing. They tracked not only the sun, but they also tracked the movements of the moon over 18 and a half years. And they have it marked in their buildings. So even they will have corner windows that when the moon comes up on a certain date, that window goes into the deep kiva that's underground, into a trapezoidal window, which is like they use in Peru, and the light goes along from the moon, and like a flashlight, and lights up that specific thing, and they know it's the exact timing. We saw some things like that in the cathedrals in the Templars had made, St. Sulpice and Chartres Cathedral, where they had to know exactly on the dome where to put a hole that it would hit the exact thing inside on those dates, because there's something about the heavens. And then just to tell you real quickly, at night, we didn't put the tarp over our tent. We left it open. It got down to 30, but we left it open because we wanted to see. And what we found is where we had put our feet were to the south, and our head was to the north. We didn't do it intentionally, it just turned out perfectly that way. And then our left hand was in the north, and our right hand, and we were looking, and then the stars started to come out. And that experience that I had where I got to fly over Chaco Canyon, and I looked up and I saw the stars, and it was just this inky black with stars. Well, you're up high on that mesa, and pretty soon we had a phone and we could hold it up, and it's like, oh, that's Venus, or no, that's Virgo. I can see Spike in her hand. I can see the wing. Oh my gosh, it's Leo. I can see the 4 spots of his body and the head. Look at this. And we could literally see the constellations and the North Star, and it was going over our bodies. And so at first, the Big Dipper was on one side. By the early, later in the night, it was on the other side. And I was sitting there, and then I wake up in the middle of the night, so inky, and I'm like, are those clouds? I'm not sure. And then I had a little window over here, so I unzipped my window, and then I realized, oh no, that's the Milky Way. The Milky Way is right over us. And remember the Nile teachings?
I don't think I've ever seen the Milky Way.
Oh, it's glorious. It was so amazing. I felt almost like I was giddy. I felt like I had a glass of wine or something. I just couldn't believe it. And we did some amazing things that are real sacred. I'll share them with you. But
did Andre go?
He didn't. He couldn't go, and Felice's husband couldn't go, and so we decided to go. And actually, Ariane and her husband, it was their anniversary, so they were going to go, and then it kind of started falling apart. And Felice is like, let's just do it. I go, do we have a car that can get down there? Because it's in the middle of a reservation, and there's 21 miles of like washboard dip, lose your transmission kind of a situation. And so to get out there's dicey.
I'm surprised you weren't attacked to be on the reservation.
No, I kind of, we said a prayer around the car. We said a prayer. And once you get in, then it is a national park. So you have people that live there and it's safe and everything. So they told us there was no running water and there was no potties. I mean, just like canned potties, the icky. But we got there and they actually had potable water and they actually had electricity in the bathroom. You couldn't do it in your place, and they also had running water, electricity, and flushing toilets. Most important part. Yeah. So those are the things. So if you get a chance, go down as soon as you can, or we might try and put together a group and go down. And then I was hiking out of Pueblo Bonito, which is when I looked down and I saw people dancing. I'll tell you the whole kind of what I saw in this dream. I thought, well, there can't be that many people dancing there, so it must be somewhere else. But once I got out and I realized it was acres. Like the building next to it is on 3 acres. This one's probably on 6 acres. That one's on 3 acres. The smaller one, they counted, and it has 50 million hewn rectangular stones in that building. 50 million. So we're talking about a complex that is it's like Machu Picchu. It's like Peru. It's where everybody goes, but right now, because we want to go down there first and just experience it. Oh, it's just so fun. So I'll share more of that, but that's why I'm like, don't book us out too far because I want to be able to share some of this. It was just so fun.
When we were in Tulum, Mexico, we heard this little group, and they looked LDS. I don't know why, but we found out that the guy that was taking their tour was LDS, and he said that the light too came through Tulum, and it shoots through right at the solstice. That everything is so perfectly aligned. But a lot of those went back and forth from North and South America. But he said he gave the spiritual message that it is like the light taking it out to the world. That light that comes through and shoots out to the world, that's a template for us with the temple and Moses that we're studying these last weeks.
As we were laying there, kind of the answer is you are like a star. You are like the temple. Your body is like, you are in that alignment. You need to get your body in that alignment with God. And then you can do amazing things, right? The Lord is calling you to do something, whatever that is. But anyway, I'll just leave that with you. But that was... Thank you.